The next morning came without sunlight. Mist covered the valley like a blanket of white sorrow. The manor groaned as if remembering its age. Every door creaked, every wall sighed. Saren stood by the cracked window, her gray eyes scanning the world beyond. Everything was quiet. Even the birds had forgotten to sing. She had not slept. The whispers from the mirrors had not stopped. All night they called her name, not in hatred, but in something worse. Recognition. Welcome home, Saren. The words still echoed in her mind. But this was not her home. At least that was what she told herself. Arendor entered the room quietly, carrying a small tray with bread and tea. His hands trembled slightly, but he held the tray steady. "You have not eaten," he said. "I thought you might forget." Saren looked at him surprised. "You serve now?" He smiled faintly. "There is no one else left to do it." She took the cup but did not drink. "You should not trouble yourself. I am only here to collect what is owed." "I know," he said softly. "And yet, I would rather you stay alive long enough to collect it." His voice was calm, but there was a hidden warmth beneath the tired tone. A spark she could not ignore. Saren lowered her eyes, not wishing to read the meaning behind it. They walked together through the manor's garden that day. The garden was more ruin than beauty, a graveyard of flowers. The air smelled of damp earth and lost memories. Once golden roses had grown here, kissed by sunlight and song. Now only thorns remained, sharp and proud, rising from the dead soil. Arendor knelt beside one withered stem and touched it gently. "These once bloomed only for my mother," he said quietly. "The curse took even them." Saren's gaze softened. "Why do you still care for them if the curse will only destroy them again?" "Because it's what keeps me human," he replied. "The day I stop caring, I will become one of the shadows that whisper through these halls." She watched him, seeing in him something she had long forgotten. Endurance without hope. There was power in it, and danger. As the days passed, the manor seemed to change. It was still dark, still haunted, but less cold. Saren began to feel warmth in corners where there had been none. The torches burned longer. The halls grew quiet. The curse, restless and watching, seemed almost curious. Arendor spoke little, but when he did, his words carried weight. He told her stories of the old kingdom, of battles fought under a dying moon, of songs sung in defiance of the gods. Sometimes his voice broke, and Saren wondered if he still saw himself as a prince, or just as a ghost pretending to live. One evening, as rain beat against the roof, Saren asked, "Do you regret what your family did?" Arendor smiled without humor. "Every day. But regret does not unmake what has been done. And if you could change it," he turned to her, his eyes dark and deep, "then I would have chosen a smaller dream. Power makes fools of kings. Perhaps peace is the greater throne." Later that night, Saren opened the ancient scrolls she had found in the library. They were records of the pact made long ago, the debt of shadows. The words were written in an old tongue, but her kind could read all languages born from prayer and fear. The truth struck her like a blade. The debt was not gold. It was life itself. Every heir of Vareth was marked from birth. The curse consumed their years, feeding the gods who had granted them victory. When the last heir fell, the gods would claim the land and close it in eternal night. Saren's purpose became clear. She was sent not just to collect the debt, but to end the bloodline completely. If Arendor died, the curse would sleep forever. The gods would be satisfied. The land would rest. But as she watched him tending the dead garden, his fingers careful on the thorns, she felt something shift inside her, a pull stronger than duty. That evening, the storm returned. The sky turned black. The manor trembled with each thunderclap. Candles blew out one by one until only the fire in the main hall remained. Arendor and Saren found themselves there together, both silent, both watching the flames. The air between them felt heavy, not with fear but with words unspoken. Arendor broke the silence first. "You are not what I expected," he said. "And what did you expect?" she asked. "A monster," he said simply. "A hand of the gods. I thought they would send something without a face." "And do I have one?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Yes," he said, his gaze steady. "Too human, perhaps." Her breath caught, but she said nothing. The storm howled outside, and in the flicker of the fire, their shadows stretched across the walls in long, trembling, almost touching. Later, when the storm grew too violent, Seren walked to the Hall of Mirrors again. She wanted answers. The reflections met her with cold silence this time. But then slowly one mirror began to shimmer. The surface rippled like a pond. From within the glass, a voice spoke, soft, ageless, filled with power. "You walk beside the debt you were meant to claim," it said. "Yet your heart beats with hesitation." Serene's voice was steady. "Why do you know my name?" The reflection changed. It no longer showed her face, but the face of a woman with silver eyes and a crown of light, the goddess herself. "You were born of my breath," said the reflection. "You were made to serve my will, to gather what was promised. Do not forget your purpose." Seren took a step back. "You made this curse. I made balance," said the goddess. "It was men who turned it into suffering. And if I refuse to finish your task?" Seren asked quietly. The reflection smiled, a terrible, beautiful smile. "Then you will fall with him." The next morning, Arendor found her in the garden again. She looked pale, her hands trembling slightly as she touched the dead roses. "You saw something," he said. "Something in the mirrors." She didn't answer at first. Then softly she said, "Your curse was not only given. It was guarded. I was born from it," he frowned. "What do you mean?" "I am not just the collector," she said. "I am part of the chain that binds you. My existence depends on your debt continuing." Arendor stared at her, realization dawning slowly. "Then if I die?" "I fade," she finished quietly. "And if I free you, the gods will destroy me." For a long time neither spoke. The mist drifted between them, cold and silent. Finally Arendor said, "Then you are as much a prisoner as I am." She met his eyes, gray to gray. Perhaps worse. From that day on they were bound by unspoken understanding. Seren continued her search for a way to break the curse without death. Arendor helped her, though his strength waned with each passing night. The curse was eating him slowly like frost under the skin. Sometimes they spoke of simple things, childhood memories, lost songs, old books. Other times they sat in silence, the air filled with quiet trust that needed no words. One night Arendor asked softly, "If you could be free of them, the gods, the duty, what would you do?" Seren hesitated. "I would walk under the sun again. I would sleep without hearing names whispered in my dreams. I would live as no one." He smiled sadly. "Then you would be more than any god ever was." The following night the mirrors in the hall shattered on their own. Every piece of glass fell to the ground like rain, glimmering in the candlelight. Serene and Arendor ran to the sound and found words carved into the walls and glowing faintly like embers. "The debt must be paid. Blood for blood." Arendor touched the writing, his expression grim. "They're running out of patience." "Then we are running out of time," Seren said. The storm returned once more, stronger than before. The skies tore open with thunder that shook the earth. Seren felt the goddess's presence like a hand around her throat, unseen but heavy. Arendor found her standing at the manor's door, watching the lightning over the hills. "If you stay," she said, "you will die." "If I leave," he said, "you will fade." The air around them seemed to stop. Neither moved, neither could. Finally, Seren whispered, "There must be another way." "Then we will find it," he said, "together." And for the first time the manor lights flickered, not in anger but as if the house itself dared to hope. The kingdom of Vareth was dying. Once it had been a land of music and sunlight, of kings crowned under blue skies. But now it was a place of ghosts and gray mornings. The rivers no longer sang. The forest stood still as if listening to something that never came. The moon rarely rose above the mountains, hiding behind a veil of mist that never cleared. And in the center of it all stood a manor. Large, cracked and cold as the bones of the dead. It belonged to Prince Arendor. At least it used to. He wandered through its dark halls like a shadow searching for meaning. The walls whispered when he passed. The mirrors showed him not his face, but the face of his ancestors, proud kings and broken queens. He did not light fires anymore. The warmth never stayed. He did not speak aloud. The echo answered too soon. His servants had fled long ago. Only silence kept him company now. Silence and the faint memory of what his family had done. 100 years ago, the royal bloodline of Vareth had made a bargain with the gods. They had borrowed power to win wars, to hold the throne, to become eternal in legend. But that power had a price, and every generation after was forced to pay it. Arendor was the last of that line. And the debt had come due. It happened on a morning that was not truly morning, the kind of light that looked unsure if it wanted to exist. Arendor stood by the tall window, staring at the valley below, when he heard the sound of hooves outside. A single carriage stopped before the iron gates. He did not move, but something inside him stirred, a feeling he had not known in years. Expectation. Moments later, the doors of the manor opened without his command. A woman stepped inside. She wore a cloak the color of storm clouds, her steps soft but firm. Her face was calm, her eyes unreadable, gray like winter mist. She carried no weapon, no lantern, yet when she entered, the shadows themselves bent around her as if to make room. "Prince Arendor of Vareth," she said. Her voice was low and even, but it carried through the hall like the ring of metal. "I have come to collect what is owed." Arendor turned slowly, his expression half a smile and half a question. "Owed?" he repeated. "I own nothing left to give. Even the stars have forgotten me." She met his gaze without blinking. "You owe me rent," that made him laugh. The sound echoed strangely in the empty hall, as if the walls were unsure whether to laugh or cry with him. "Rent," he said again, amused. "And what kingdom claims this place now?" "Yours, in a way," she replied. "This land was pledged long before you were born. I am here as its collector." He studied her calm, her poise, the way her words carried power without need for threat. "And if I refuse to pay?" Her lips curved faintly, though not in humor. "Then the curse will finish what it began. You will become what your ancestors feared most, a hollow echo forever bound to this place." For a moment, neither spoke. The wind outside howled through the broken windows. Somewhere above, a door slammed shut by itself. Finally, Arendor said quietly, "And what if I gave you something better?" The woman, Seren, though she had not yet spoken her name, did not answer at first. Her eyes softened, though her voice remained steady. "You have nothing better to offer," she said. "You sound certain," Arendor replied. "I am." He stepped closer, the faint light catching the tired lines of his face. "Then stay a while," he said. "Look around. See what remains before you decide what my nothing is worth." Seren tilted her head slightly as if weighing the strange invitation. For reasons she could not name, she did not turn away. "Very well," she said simply. As she walked through the manor, the air grew heavier. The walls seemed to lean closer, whispering her name, though she had never been here before. Serene traced a hand along the cracked stone, feeling the faint pulse beneath it, like a heartbeat buried in rock. Arendor followed at a distance, watching her. "It's alive," he said quietly. "This house. The curse runs through every wall. It remembers what we took." "And what was that?" she asked. "Life," he answered. "Time, victory, all stolen from the gods in exchange for loyalty. My ancestor's pride was greater than his faith." Seren stopped before an old portrait. It showed a young king with eyes like fire and a smile sharp as a blade. "Your ancestor made the pact," she said. "And yet it is you who must pay." Arendor gave a weary smile. "A common story, is it not? The children suffer for the sins of their fathers." Something flickered in Seren's gaze. Perhaps pity, perhaps memory. But she masked it quickly. "You speak as though you have accepted it." "Acceptance is easier than hope," he said softly. "Hope demands too much." Later, as twilight crept across the broken windows, Seren stood alone in the great hall. Dust floated like ash in the fading light. The air was thick with old magic, the kind that smelled like rain before a storm. She could feel the curse pressing against her skin, testing her, curious about her presence. She closed her eyes and reached inward. Her blood hummed and faint silver symbols appeared on her palms, marks of the divine collectors, servants of the old gods. The magic within the manor recoiled from her touch. "You're not human," Arendor said from behind her. His tone was not fearful, only thoughtful. She turned. "No," she admitted. "I am not." "Then what are you?" "A reminder," she said. "A voice the gods left behind to gather what they are owed." He studied her again, this strange, calm woman who looked more like sorrow than wrath. "Do you enjoy your duty?" he asked. Her answer came after a long pause. "I do not question it." That was not my question. This time she did not respond. Instead, she walked toward the grand staircase, her cloak brushing the floor like a whisper of storm clouds. Arendor smiled faintly, not out of amusement, but admiration. Perhaps, he murmured, the gods have sent someone far more dangerous than a curse. Night fell over the manor like a curtain. The torches burned with blue fire, flickering in strange rhythms. Saren sat in the old library, reading the forgotten records of Vareth's history, half of them lies, the other half prayers. Arendor entered quietly, carrying 2 cups of black tea. The smell of it filled the room, bitter but alive. He placed 1 cup beside her. You drink? She asked. Sometimes I pretend to, he said. It makes me feel human. Pretending, she said softly, can be dangerous. So can feeling nothing, he answered. Their eyes met for a long, wordless moment. The air between them trembled, not with threat, but with something neither could name. Saren looked down at the open book. The words were fading, dissolving into dust as the curse consumed the ink. This place is dying, she said. It has been dying for years, Arendor replied. You are simply here to watch it finish. I am here to end it, she corrected. He looked into the firelight and whispered, Then you and I are the same. I've wanted it to end for a long time. Later that night, when Saren wandered through the corridor of mirrors, the air changed. A faint whisper rose, not from the wind, but from the glass itself. She turned slowly, her reflection flickering between light and shadow. The mirrors began to move, their surfaces rippling like disturbed water. Voices filled the hall, hundreds of them overlapping, murmuring her name. Saren, Saren, collector of debts. Breaker of hearts, daughter of the dawn who forgot her own light. Her heart began to race. She raised a hand and the sigils on her skin glowed faintly. Show yourself, she commanded. The reflection shifted, and for a heartbeat she saw her own face twist into something older, sadder, crowned in silver flame. The reflection smiled at her, though she did not. The curse knows you, Arendor's voice said from the shadows behind her. She turned quickly. He stood at the edge of the hall, his expression calm but his eyes full of understanding. It recognizes its own maker. I did not make it, she whispered. No, he said softly. But perhaps you were meant to end it. The torches flickered out one by one, leaving only the moonlight through broken glass. And for the first time since she arrived, Saren felt afraid, not of the curse, but of the truth waiting inside it. End of Part 1, Cliffhanger. The manor's whispers rise again, clearer this time, speaking not to Arendor but to her. Welcome home, Saren.